Don't forget to keep checking out the links down in the description, just so we can keep an eye on the vulnerable communities that are being most affected in this world. All of us are being affected, all of us are suffering, but the vulnerable communities that are listed below are the ones that are suffering the most. And if you want to call yourself an ally in any way, shape, or form, the absolute bare minimum you can do is be checking out those links. Hello Friendsies, welcome back to my channel. It's still hot, if you can't tell. I don't understand people who can wear makeup in weather like this. You guys are braver than the US Marines. Anyway, I have more energy today, if you can't tell, so we are going to do one of the videos that I keep saying, oh, it's gonna come, meh, 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 meh. And I just double checked. I said this video was gonna come 4 or 5 months ago in the things I haven't tweeted yet, part 3. Card is going up, I'm just pointing to random shit. I said in that video, I was like, I'm gonna make a video about this at the end of next month, so we're gonna get it. Here it is now. I still haven't finished reading Percy Jackson. So today, I'm gonna make the video exposing myself, talking about, if you can't tell by the title, some of my kins and why they're my kins and why I so heavily relate to them. We are gonna do 2 parts to this because of the heat. I have a lot of energy right now, I'm feeling good, but because of how hot it is, we need to make 2 parts because I'm gonna get worked up. I'm gonna be, you know? So we're gonna do 2 parts of this. We are gonna do the girls, the girlies, this episode, and next episode will be the boyos, alright? So let's get into it. So, on the kin list for the girlies, we have Amy Pond from Doctor Who. I don't remember what season it is, but it's the, like, 1st season with the 11th Doctor, who is my favorite Doctor, just so everybody knows. We have Mal from Descendants. We have Usagi from Sailor Moon, and we have, I always say her name wrong and I'm so sorry, Shizuku Tsukishima from Whisper of the Heart. All main characters, we've discussed this. We're gonna start with Amy, okay? So Amy Pond, if you don't know, in the Doctor Who series is like this weird little girl who is living with an aunt at the time, and I don't remember why, like when she's introduced into the series. I don't remember why she's living with an aunt, but she's living with an aunt in a small town, and she's just kind of a weird little girl. She's not really like too popular in school. She doesn't have too many friends. And the doctor shows up, and she's kind of frightened of this like weird grown man in a bow tie in her yard, but also not really, because she feeds him and like doesn't mind his kind of weird questions and weird mannerisms. And if anything, she's very excited to kind of interact with him and everything. And while he's trying to like get the TARDIS back up and running, she goes and packs a bag and is like ready to run off and go on adventures with him. And he gets the TARDIS running, isn't able to like bring her along, and she just sits and waits for him. And when he comes back, I don't know if I should say spoilers. If you haven't watched Doctor Who and like kind of want to watch it, spoilers I guess. When he comes back, she is much older. I believe she's in, I think when he first shows up, she's like 9, 10, and when he shows up again, she's like early 20s, early to mid 20s. I don't know, I haven't checked the ages. I also haven't watched that season in a while because I don't know where to find it and watch it. But anyway, when he shows back up, she acts very like she recognizes him. He obviously doesn't know who she is, and she kind of is like aggressive about it and like is mad at him and is yelling at him. And then when she kind of reveals herself to be Amelia Pond, the little girl that he met for him 5 minutes ago, for her several years ago, she's very angry with him, and she's telling him that 12 years. It was 12 years. So she's telling him 12 years, and he doesn't believe her. And she goes, 12 years and 4 psychiatrists. And he goes, 4. And she goes, I kept biting them. And he says, why? And she says, because they told me you weren't real. So weird little girl with an imaginary friend who was so excited to run off and get away from the life that she was living, which, I mean, on the surface and for like how the writers wrote this little girl, was not an overly horrific life, but also to each their own. If somebody thinks that they are personally suffering and they're not making like, no, I'm suffering worse than you, let them, you know what I mean? If she thinks she had a bad childhood, she had a bad childhood. That's her thing. So somebody who was a young kid who didn't really want to be where they were and wanted to run away and forget about everything, with this silly imaginary friend, and then was like very angry and mad. Very flirty. I love that about Amy. She's very flirty. She's absolutely in love with Rory, but like very flirty, which vibes, and loves her imaginary friend with her entire heart and will do anything for him. I've talked about it a bit before, and we're obviously not going to get into it, but I didn't have the best childhood. My mom is obviously fucking fantastic. She's like one of my favorite people in the entire world. But there's also another half to that, and not with my mom, but like another half of parent. That's what I was trying to say. And that wasn't great. And I pretty much spent my entire childhood while I was interacting with that other parent wishing that I could run away and have crazy adventures. Like all of the, like I was one of those kids that was reading Magic Tree House, Pixie Tricks, Jewel Kingdom. What was the other series I read? Like Spiderwick, wishing that I could have like these fantastical adventures, because I think one of the things about Amy and like Doctor Who specifically, like the show specifically, but Amy as well, is bad things that happen because the world is fantastical and there's magic and there's weird science, and not just because people are cruel and terrible, you know? So that's Amy. All right, let's get into Mal. I gotta like sit up for this. Let's get into Mal. So Mal from Descendants, if you have not seen, heard, know anything about Descendants, Mal is the daughter of Maleficent, and the Descendants series is about children of heroes and villains in the Disney universe, living their life, interacting, learning politics, that kind of nonsense. Mal is the daughter of Maleficent, and I haven't read the books. I tried so hard to read the Descendants books, besties. I really tried. I saw the first Descendants movie before I really knew about the books. I can't stand the books. I cannot stand them. The personality of the characters in the movie is the personalities that I do not see anything else. I can't stand the first book. I tried so hard to get through it. I got like 2 chapters in and I was like, I would rather eat glass than continue this. So in the first movie, like I said, again, Mal's the daughter of Maleficent, and Maleficent is seen as like the big bad of the Descendants first movie. And when she is invited to go to the good world, basically like the good place of Auradon, by the Beast's son with her 3 best friends, Maleficent pulls her aside and says, what you're going to do is you're going to go and you're going to get Fairy Godmother's wand. You're going to break the border that keeps, you know, us kind of imprisoned in the world that we're in, and you are going to let me free, and then you and I are going to take over and be evil. It's Kristen Chenoweth who plays Maleficent, and she has a whole song, Evil Like Me. It's great. It's fantastic. Very Kristen Chenoweth vibes. It's a whole thing. And Mal is very, like, surface level, rough and tumble, fuck you, resting bitch face, like, does not give a shit. She's very loyal to, like, those that she holds close, and everybody else, it doesn't matter if you are genuinely somebody that, like, would be a good friend for her for a long time. If you are new in her life, she's going to assume the worst of you. She's going to assume that you mean danger for, like, her and her own. She's kind of the leader of the pack. Well, she is the leader of the pack, not kind of. She's the leader of the pack, and when all of her other friends are in Auradon kind of, like, experiencing new things and learning what it means to be something other than the child of a villain, she really holds back and doesn't do anything about it. Like, there is a comment in the movie at one point of her, like, because her locker is all painted because she graffitis it, and she, like, doodles in her notebook a lot. There's a comment about her possibly joining art club, and she shuts it down and it's not a big thing, but all of her other friends are doing things. Like, her friend Jay joins a sports team, which is exactly like what he needs for his, like, anger and aggression. Her other friend meets a dog, which is a thing because he was, like, raised to have a phobia of dogs and pretty much probably all other animals, but he meets a dog and is able to kind of get over that trauma. Her other friend is learning that, like, her whole value isn't placed in just, like, her looks and what she can kind of provide for other people. Her other friend, Mal's other friend, learns that she is an intelligent person. She is more than her pretty face. So all of her other friends really go through this, like, they involve themselves in other things. The friend that learns that she's more than a pretty face starts a fashion line that continues through the rest of the series. The friend that joins sports has, like, joins a fencing team in the last movie, and it becomes, like, a really cool character development thing for him. The one who meets the dog becomes like, not only does he learn how to interact with dogs, but he learns how to interact with other people as well, like better. Like he learns how to grow his circle without giving too much of himself away. Everybody gets a really cool character development that solidly starts in the first movie, and Mal's isn't about her personal interests. Mal's character development is how she thinks she has to be a certain way and thinks she needs to be hard and hardened to keep herself safe. And then she learns that she's allowed to be vulnerable. She's learns that she's allowed to want something different than what she was raised to learn. I'm telling on myself when I describe these characters, and it makes me really emotional because again, a lot of these characters are like children's characters, so I'm probably looking way too much into it, but that's how I feel, especially about Mal. Like, there's a scene where they kind of like video call their parents, and obviously it's the villains, and when kind of it gets shut down, the parents say, you know, kind of upsetting stuff. And when they're all walking out of the classroom, one of the friends goes, do you think if this doesn't work, like if the plan for Godmother's wand doesn't work, will they be mad? And Mal's like, no, I think they're, you know, they'll be softly disappointed, but otherwise, you know, not a big deal. And all the friends kind of look at her and she goes, no, we're totally screwed. And they all have kind of like a look on their face that's really scared and upsetting, because they know that if they mess this up, their parents are gonna fucking kill them, probably. Like, not realistically, but like maybe. And again, some of the things in my childhood feel very hashtag relatable, where it was that worry of, if you don't do the specific thing that doesn't necessarily feel right to you, but I said you have to do it, be afraid of what could happen, whether it was emotional, physical, verbal. There was a worry for consequences if I didn't do, you know, certain things that they deemed important that I didn't feel right about. Hi, Mal. And I have that very, like, I feel like I come across very, like, resting bitch face. I'm not super open to new people, is the thing. People that come in, like, very overly friendly, there's, like, an inherent distrust in me that, like, I know logically it's probably not you being a bad person secretly and, like, hiding something from me, but I can't help, like, walling myself off, you know? I have a very, like, small group of friends that I hold really near and dear to me, and I don't really let new people in, and if there's one thing that goes wrong, I kind of am very quick to, like, boot people out, and that's very Malcore. Okay, sorry, mini intermission and probably a slightly different camera angle because I have to make sure my camera's not overheating. Okay, time to talk about Usagi. My first kin probably ever, I think. There were plenty of, like, characters that I was like, oh, that's me, haha, because she's the princess. Like, literally all the Barbie movies, I'm Barbie. Like, hello? No, Barbie is much more successful and, like, kind and forgiving than I will ever be. Barbie is not a kin of mine, even though I want her to be. No, Usagi was, like, my first ever character that I was like, oh my god, I see myself in Usagi. First of all, I'm a fat person, and I have always been fat, and yes, I will make it part of my personality because it is, especially in American culture and fat phobia that is so heavily present in society. Being fat is a personality trait. Usagi should be fat. I don't know, and I'm not criticizing why she wasn't drawn fat in the anime. I'm not criticizing it. I think the Sailor Moon Crystal should have had the reboot of her being fat, genuinely. Have you seen the way Usagi eats, and have you seen the way she cannot focus without food? How she's always hungry, how she's always upset if she's not getting food, like, every 5 minutes? Literally me. Food is good. Food does not hold moral value. You should always eat. I love being fat. There's nothing wrong with being fat. The only downside of being fat to me is not being able to wear whatever the fuck I want all the time because I'm also poor, so I can't afford to have things made in my size. Okay? Usagi should have been fat. In my head, she's fat. And she's also the Moon Princess. Again. But then also, she's so emotional all of the time. She's a 14-year-old girl in the anime, if you don't know, and I believe it's kind of alluded to the fact that she, like, kind of ages throughout the series. I believe that's, like, what is happening. She's a 14-year-old girl in the series, and every little thing makes her cry. This bitch. I cry at everything. You could just be like, hey, how are you today? Oh, I'm good, how are you? Good, I'm really glad to hear that everything with you is going okay. I'll be like, thank you. Also, specifically that, I'm filming this on, I believe today is the 6th, and the video went up, last week's video where I talk about being a human, and how I don't feel human went up on the 3rd, and yesterday, Friday, the day before I filmed this, and 2 days after the video came out, I had a breakdown at work about how much I hate my job, and was absolutely sobbing, so haha. I like, just anything, any little thing I will cry about. If music in a movie gets like even slightly below upbeat, tears. A song lyric hits the right way and it's not even an emotional lyric, it's just like, yeah, I think you're cool, tears. Any movie, tears. Episodes of Sailor Moon, tears. Just anything. Anything makes me cry. Anything at all. It doesn't matter. I will cry at everything, and so will Usagi. Usagi will cry at literally anything. Also, a non-surface level, kind of haha silly thing about Usagi that makes me very much feel like, oh my god, like, that is the character that I am. At the end of... It's not really season 1, because season 1 has like 90-something episodes, but the end... Oh, arc, because it's anime. The end of the first arc of Sailor Moon, basically what happens is she loses all of her friends, her Sailor Guardians. They all die trying to protect her and trying to defeat the evil in the world. And she is not only able to defeat the evil, but because she is the Moon Princess, uses the power of the Silver Crystal to revive everybody and basically wipe their memories so that none of them will ever hurt again, is her kind of idea, because being Sailor Guardians has been very difficult. She doesn't feel like she can she doesn't feel like she's doing a good job of upholding the title of Sailor Guardian and upholding the title of Moon Princess, because everybody's always kind of telling her that in the past life that they had before, when she was the Moon Princess, she was so much more put together. She could ice skate, she could do this, she could do this, and now as Usagi, this 14-year-old girl living in Tokyo, she's kind of facing a lot of criticism of being Sailor Moon, of being the revealed Moon Princess. Like, when they find out she's the Moon Princess, and then, like, 2 episodes later, it's, like, kind of a goofy, silly episode, everybody's like, God, how can you be the Moon Princess? You're such a mess. So, when she kind of dies defeating the evil, all of her friends are dead, she reincarnates them, she makes sure that everybody's memory is wiped because she wants them all to just live peacefully as teenage girls, and to just live their life as teenage girls. Which she feels like, I think, I don't know if it's ever explicitly said, but I think she feels like, because being Sailor Moon and because being the Sailor Guardians, she feels like being a teenage girl is, like, ripped away from her. And then literally, like, an episode or 2 later, no, literally the next episode, like, the next arc, a friend of hers gets hurt, who actually suffered very terribly in the first arc as well, emotionally. The same friend gets kidnapped by a monster, and she has to regain her memory of being Sailor Moon. And when she's sitting there regaining the memory, she's crying. I'm gonna get emotional! Oh my god, I cried so hard at the end of the Queen Beryl arc. Love and friendship literally solves all problems. I'm crying, look at me! When she has to regain her memory, she's sitting there, you know, getting the memories kind of back, and she's crying and saying, I don't want to do it, I don't want to suffer anymore. And then she gets up, she turns into Sailor Moon, and she goes and does the damn thing. She fights off the monster, she rescues her friend, she gets together with the girls, and they go and talk about the next evil that they have to train and fight against. Usagi feeling like she has her, like, teenage years ripped away from her because of this duty that she has to fulfill. She has to step into this position, and not wanting to do it, but getting up and doing the damn thing anyway because that's what's right. I'm looking in a mirror. I can see myself. Oh my goodness, I'm crying. And when I was little, because of her signature ponytails, I always had my mom put my hair in ponytails. We could never quite get the, like, little, like, hair accessories right, but I always had my little ponytails. I Did I call her Serena? That was her American name, and that's what I called her because I watched the American dubs when I was little because it was on TV. But Usagi is me, and I love her so much. Alright, we're gonna get into the next girly, who is from my favorite Studio Ghibli movie, Whisper of the Heart. It is Shizuku Tsukishima. I always say her name wrong because it's like it's a lot of that and I don't want to spit. Hold on. But I adore Shizuku. I didn't even know Whisper of the Heart existed. I am a, like, early to mid 2000s Studio Ghibli girly, so, like, obviously Castle in the Sky, Spirited, I'm like looking over there to make sure I get all the names right. Castle in the Sky, Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle, like I haven't seen The Secret of Arrietty and Ponyo, but like that kind of era of Studio Ghibli. And if you don't know, they're older movies from the mid to late 90s, and I believe even in the 80s from Studio Ghibli. Not all by Hayao Miyazaki specifically, other creators as well. But I watched The Cat Returns with a couple friends of mine once or twice because we were all in middle school and we were all obsessed with Studio Ghibli. I watched The Cat Returns, absolutely fell in love with it, was obsessed with Baron. And I was always like, haha, where is he returning from? And my mom looked into it, and he is from the movie Whisper of the Heart. That is where he is first introduced. And the main character, as I said, is Shizuku. She's a young girl who I believe it's like I believe she's in middle school. She's in middle school and she is kind of demotivated. It's not like super bad, but she's kind of demotivated with her life. She doesn't really want to do much. She kind of just wants to be a kid, really. She wants to hang out with her friends. She wants to do certain things. And there's like her sister comes back from like an internship or something and like is like, why isn't the room clean? Like, why aren't you going around? Why aren't you doing schoolwork over the summer? Like, you could get into a good school. And she kind of just doesn't want to do that. All she wants to do is read. She wants to go to her local library and she wants to read. Hi, daughter of a librarian here. And her dad's actually a librarian. I missed that. Actually, I believe he's doing like part-time work at a library while he's going to university to do something else. I don't remember what it is. But she also has this, like, weird thing going on with every book she checks out. Even books that, like, have no other people checked out on the library card, there's always this name above hers. And it's Seiji Yamasawa. And she is obsessed with finding out who this Seiji is. And one of the days that she tries to go to the library to bring her dad, like, lunch or whatever, because he forgot it at home, she finds this cat. And on the train, and she's like, haha, so silly, we love a cat. Young person obsessed with a cat, right? And she follows the cat past the library, up the hill into like this beautiful, like it feels very magical little neighborhood, and she ends up finding this kind of like very mystical, magical thrift shop and finding the Baron and meeting this old man. I forgot what his first name is. Is it Yuji? That doesn't sound right, but I think that might be his first name. And through the old man, because it's his grandson, or his nephew, meets Seiji Yamasawa, and it's this, like, pain-in-the-ass boy who she can't stand. Oh, because, like, she meets him beforehand, and she doesn't know it's Seiji at the time, but she meets him beforehand, and he kind of makes, like, a smart-ass comment, and then she's, like, walking down a hill at one point really mad, and she's going, stupid jerk, stupid jerk, stupid jerk, stupid jerk. So, very, like, young teen kind of attitude. And throughout the movie, basically, she develops a love for writing, and she wants to create this very, like, mystical, magical, just kind of story. The Baron is, like, the main character. She wants to write all about the Baron, and throughout the movie, there's certain, like, cuts. Like, at one point, she's, like, running down these, like, steps on a hill, and she looks over, like, I believe it's set in Tokyo. She looks over the city of Tokyo as she's like running down these steps, and it fades into like her story where her and the Baron are like jumping through this floating city and like following the clouds and catching wind gusts. And she very much lives in this like beautiful fantasy world while she's trying to write her story. She and Seiji develop a beautiful relationship where he is going to be leaving Japan to go off and fulfill his dreams, become an apprentice to make violins, and she, because she has a connection with Seiji, very much wants to achieve the same level, but with her stories. And when she finally brings her story for, like I said, I don't remember if his name is Yuji, but when she brings the story for Yuji to read, he goes, like, he's reading it for hours and hours because she brings him, like, a stack. And she's kind of sitting outside, like, very nervous, and he comes out and he's like, all right, I've read it, like, do you want to come in? And she's like, it's so bad, like, there's so many spelling, like, everything's all messed up, the plot's all over the place, and he is like, all right, calm down, come here. She's very much a writer in that sense, and he, you know, he gives her certain feedback and everything, and her and Seiji talk a few times, and every time she talks, she tells Seiji that she's going to be, like, the best writer she can be, because she wants to be. And at the end of the movie, they have another conversation where she says the same thing. She's like, I'm going to be a writer, you're going to make violins, we're going to be happy with our passions, and we can be together. Maybe one day. And he says, Shizuku, will you marry me? She says, yes. One day I will. And he goes, I'm sorry, does that sound corny? And she goes, it does sound corny, but you're not the writer, I am. And he hugs her and says, Shizuku, I love you. And that's where the movie cuts out. And that specific scene is the scene I want tattooed on my arm up here because it's my favorite scene in any movie. Shizuku is a young girl who very much lives in her fantasy world, who wants to just experience her life and experience her passions and not deal with the pressure of, like, going to school, having to, like, provide, like, you know what I mean? It's very much like a whimsical vibe of a young child learning that there's always going to be the kind of pull to have to do certain things when you very much don't want to, and you very much want to live in this fantastical world and write stories about the Baron and have the happy endings and be with the person you care about. Hi, hello, I'm looking in a mirror again. So, yeah, those are my kins. Those are the girlies. I feel like the girlies are a lot less traumatic than the boys are going to be. The boys are going to be very traumatic. For you and me. So get hype and excited for that. Ha ha ha. Please leave a like if you enjoyed this video. It's probably going to be a very long one. I can't wait to edit it and get into that. That's going to be so fun to edit. But again, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye! The issue with my bedroom is it's completely dark on the two sides that have windows, and then all of the lighting I put on to make sure you can actually see me and I look like I have some life in me washes me out. So, ahaha.